don't forget that it's still the Ghana Month here on the Joy News channel. Spoken in the central region, it is one of the oldest dialects in Ghana, and yet many of its natives can't read, speak or write it. Natives of Senya Brekufie, they may be the last of the generation that will be able to speak Senya as the dialect continues to fade away. For the fourth of our series of stories celebrating Ghana Month, joining us is Justice Bedu, traveled to Senya Breku to actually find out more about the Senya dialect.
I'm pretty sure you know about this song, but if you ask anybody what is the meaning of this song, they don't know, and it looks like an account song, but it's a Senya song that means vulture. If you want to sleep, sleep. Sende diwa de de de, sende diwa. Sende diwa de de de, sende diwa de de de, sende diwa de de de, sende diwa. Sende diwa de. If you want to sleep, sleep. Now this tells you that our culture as Guans has been dominated by accounts. To read and write
Abeku Okain is a pastor. He calls himself a man of the people. The people are the people of Senya Breku.
When I was a kid, somebody was teasing. I live at Malam. Somebody was teasing us, my uncles, my mom, that your language is not written, your language is not a language. I was in P6 then. I felt so bad and humiliated. So I had it in my mind that I have to see my language in print. How to read and write Senya, yes, chapter 2, introduction to Senya numerals, and we call it Nkare. So
he has spent his entire life trying to develop alphabet and numerals for the Senya language so young people can learn.
Esa, Ena, Inu.
Ama Awochiba lives in the seaside town of Senya Breku in the central region. She has lived here her entire life. Ajua, her little baby, is 4 years. Like herself, her husband speaks Senya language.
Our generation, we don't want to teach our children the language. We only teach them English. They speak only Chi and not Senya. So the children have been cut off, and it's an error to cut children away from their language.
The Senya language is on the brink. The people who are supposed to speak it are those in the areas like Kasua and Senya Breku itself, just on the outskirts of southwestern Accra.
The Senya Breku language is an ancient language, very ancient. And when I say ancient, what I mean is that the people of Senya Breku are Guans. They are the aboriginals of this nation, Ghana. And we all know that the Guans were the first who settled here. Our language is closer, the Senya language is closer to Gonja, closer to Winneba, maybe closest to Winneba, and then Awutu, Latte, Trepon.
My dream is to have my child speak Senya. If in future she travels, I want her to go with our language. If she returns, she should be able to connect with her people. I don't want her to get lost.
Children like baby Ajua will be very lucky to still hear people speak the Senya language by the time they are adults. For many, like Abeku, this is a disaster they are working to avert. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Senya Breku.
And you're welcome back to the Pulse. Now, so we're asking that big question, is the local or native language actually extinguishing? If so, how can we actually preserve these languages for our Ghana Month discussion? For now, on the Pulse, we can have a conversation with a linguistic expert and an orator who is joining us now. Fapimpong Echampong is joining us to have a conversation on this. So welcome to the Pulse. Now, based on your assessment, actually, would you say that lesser known dialects are at the brink of extinction?
Yes, please. In short, yes. All factors point to the same fact. Of late, it's very easy for anyone to see parents, forcing their children to speak English, and basically speaking. A lot of people think that to be literate is to be eloquent in the speaking of English and reading and all that, reading and writing of English. But that is an insult to our environment, an insult to our over 49 main languages as a country. And I don't know whether the time will permit me to continue, but the long and short is that we are truly losing as a country when it comes to...
So just to find out from you, what do you think is accounting for this misconception? The fact that people feel if you don't express yourself in English or any other foreign language, then you may not really have an understanding.
Programmed into thinking that to live like a white man, excuse my language though, it's an equivalent to someone who has actually been educated. So the mindset is that we have to reject everything that makes us who we are as Africans. And before you can actually embrace something, it depends on what you've been programmed into believing. So if for instance, if you've been trained into believing that your language, programmed from your childhood, that your language is just a vernacular, and that they criminalize it in your childhood, and you are forced to accept it. It becomes a part of you, and then when you grow up, you reject it unconsciously, thinking that that is what makes you. Excuse my words, but when they are campaigning, they campaign in our local language.
Yeah.
But when they win power, they give their speeches in English. So it's to cut a long story short.
So that's where you actually see the disconnect. But how about this? The concern about starting the stigma around the language itself right from school, from primary school days. You are asked by your teachers, by your superiors to actually try and express yourself in a foreign language, either English or French. And we don't seem to place much emphasis on your local dialect. Could that be part of the reasons why we're having these challenges?
Yes, that is part of the reasons. And another side is that the parents themselves are also a major cause of they are an indispensable aspect of the course. If a parent thinks that the ability of his or her child to speak a foreign language is what makes him or her proud, the child adopts it, and it becomes very difficult for the child to also speak the language fluently. As in
Well, it appears that we're having some challenges hearing you. If you could just unmute for us so we can get the point you're making. But you were talking about how school in itself can be a source of some challenge there. What more could be contributing to this? How about urbanization itself? The fact that more and more people are moving away from their indigenous places and moving into more urbanized communities. I'm trying to ask you about the issue of urbanization. Is that also a concern?
Can be a factor in one way or the other, because me, for instance, I come from Ebri. That's where I started schooling. But when I got to Tema, people started laughing at me when I speak the pure Ekwapi Tree language. So I was forced to adapt by speaking what we call the Tema Tree, a combination of almost all the Akan languages. So sometimes it may affect you in one way or the other. But their house, the home where you live, if your parents make the conscious effort that, my friend, learning other languages is not necessarily a sin, but language is a power, and your ability to speak your local language fluently rather makes you or gives you the upper hand to easily understand other languages. You easily embrace it, and then also when you are trained that, culture, we all talk about culture. The key aspect of our culture is language. This culture, the language contains all the things that we want our communities and our royals. Let me put it that way, instead of using the word kingdom.
Right.
Because everybody to me is a royal. So if you are trained in such a way that you embrace who you are without necessarily developing any kind of cultural inferiority, you realize that yes, I mean each person or every group of people on the planet have something that actually makes them unique, and that you also have something unique that any other group may also find it difficult to get.
Right. That's a great point. We need to wrap up this conversation, but obviously parents are the center of this whole conversation. Some are actually making efforts to try and ensure that they inculcate these so-called extinct languages into their children. What's the best approach in achieving that, really?
First of all, we need to decriminalize our local language. Like this, all the schools that are tagging local languages as vernaculars that need to be punished. In terms of anyone who speaks it must be punished. First of all, it must be taken away from the system. Secondly, our constitution must be translated into our local languages, especially the 9 major ones that are government sponsored, for each and every person to embrace the essence of it. And then as much as possible, our syllabus, almost all the languages that are being taught in our various institutions, must be, translated into our various local languages. And then people must be trained into understanding that if you are an expert in a local language, you can also be employed beyond the shores of our continent, not only beyond the shores of Ghana, but beyond the shores of Africa, because there are enough universities outside Ghana, like for instance in the US, who are teaching our Akan language as a subject. And a whole lot. So to cut a long story short, people must be trained into believing that, or understanding that local language is not limited to only Ghana. And it's being studied by Indians and all kinds of people outside Africa. I've taught for more than 3 years in a private school before. And to my surprise, the non-Africans actually sat me down and overpaid me just to be able to come to their various schools and teach them our local language, Ga and Chi.
Well,
so I think when we get to understand that, yes, Chi is essential, not only Chi per se, but all our local, all the 49 languages.
Definitely. I'm sure that we have a very long way to go, but we'll just hope that parents will be able to achieve that target. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Pulse. Absolutely. And we have more coming your way. Stay with us here on the Joy News.